Now live, Chair.
Thank you, Sally. Right, there's still quite a few people to come. Are we going to wait a little longer? Got who we're missing? Yasmin, Councillor Seaton and Brennan, aren't we?
I'm here.
Hello, nice to see you. Welcome.
Hello.
From Yasmin, Madam Chairman, I'm going to take, if you don't mind.
Sorry?
I've just got a phone call coming through from Yasmin that I shall take, if that's okay.
That's fine.
I could not find an invite, so I don't know whether there's something I do when I accept it and it just disappears into the ether.
I think sometimes they've got a mind of their own, these things. The last 2 Zoom meetings, I haven't been able to get any camera. No apparent reason. So I've had to send Zoom meeting to my daughter just to check that I actually would be able to see and talk to you properly today. So I just think, you know, on the day, it depends how your phone/computer's feeling sometimes.
I find that, Brenda, I accept it and then everything disappears, then all the details about you.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I went into my deleted items in the end, but by the time I'd done that, Ed had sent me a new invite.
Mm. Hi, Yasmin, welcome.
I'm so sorry I'm late. I couldn't find my link. I do apologise.
It's fine, it's just lovely to see you. Are you okay?
You're not the only person that couldn't find a link today, Yasmin, so you're in good company, I think.
Yeah.
I'm very well, thank you, Trish. How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Fine. I think we're just sort of waiting for 1 or 2 before we start. Do we have our guest here yet? Councillor Bolton, Jill Bolton. I think she's coming to this meeting. No.
I think Jill's here.
Is she?
Yeah, I can see.
Can you? Oh. Nice to see you, Councillor Brennan.
You too.
You okay?
Yeah, how are you, Trish?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Cutting it fine because I come straight from work. So.
Oh yeah, it's a bit of a tight one, then, isn't it? Sort of rushing the door, switch on, and
yeah. Well, I'm just here. I'm
are
just
you?
in the same desk, just different computer, but coming straight from appointments. So
yeah.
Hi, Trish, Councillor Bolton here. I'm just observing for a short while before I have to go on to another meeting, but I'm going to keep my video and audio off because I'm not formally part of the meeting.
But very welcome. It's nice to hear your voice.
Thank you.
So who are we missing now? Let's have a look. I actually think we're all here that's going to be here, aren't we now? Yes. Okay, so can we begin? I think we can. First of all, can you all hear me okay? Oh, we can't, you're on mute. Right, I will begin with the formal piece before we go any further. This, as we've been saying from the beginning, this virtual meeting is being live streamed as a public meeting. It will also be recorded and the recording subsequently made available via the council's website. In addition, under the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014, other people may film, record, tweet or blog from this meeting. The use of any images or recordings is not under the council's control. Please note that members of the public viewing the meeting via the live stream can only see the person who is speaking. Also, that it takes a second or two for Zoom to switch view to the person when they begin. Participants should please ensure that their microphone is muted when they're not speaking. Okay, so now I'll ask each of you to make sure you can all hear us and see us. Let's start with, right, Alan, can you hear and see us?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Is David here? He's not here, is he? He normally declined. No. Councillor Brennan, can you hear and see us okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Radford, can you hear and see us okay?
I can, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton, can you hear and see us okay?
I can see and hear you okay.
Thank you. Yasmin, can you hear and see us okay?
I can, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy, can you hear and see us all?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Chair.
Good stuff. Right, so from that on, first is apologies, and I understand, what apologies have we had, Ed? It's not there. Okay, so obviously apologies from David Wright, and also I think that's it actually. Okay, so sorry?
Apologies. Councillor Poland isn't a member of the board, but he did ask me to note his apologies to the group.
Thank you. I had a feeling there was another, but I couldn't think. Sorry, because he's not on here. I couldn't twig for a minute. Thanks, Pete. Okay, so the second item is minutes of the previous meeting on the 24th of March. I'd like to go through and ask to make sure everybody is happy in agreement with them. So we'll go through again. Sorry, I've actually missed the officers off to make sure they can hear and see us. Apologies. Not that you're not a very important part of the meeting. Pete, can you hear and see us okay?
Thank you, Chair. I can see and hear proceedings.
Thank you. Andrew, can you hear and see us okay?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I can. Thank you.
Sally, can you hear and see us okay?
I can hear and see, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And Ed, can you hear and see us okay? No Ed at the moment.
I'll try and contact him, Chair, to see what the problem is.
Yeah, I noticed a minute or two he didn't answer when I spoke. Thank you. Right, so minutes of the previous meeting, we'll now go through all the members. Tracy, do you agree to the minutes on the 24th of March?
I do, Chair.
Thank you. Hang on. Alan, do you agree on the minutes for the 24th of March?
Yes, I do, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan, do you agree on the minutes for the 24th of March meeting?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Radford, do you agree on the minutes for the 24th of March meeting?
I do agree, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton, do you agree on the minutes for the 24th of March meeting?
I do, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yasmin, do you agree on the minutes for the 24th of March meeting?
I do, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, I just want to check. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, we can. Thank you, Ed.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry for
Oh.
people who didn't get their invitations. I did send out a calendar invite, but I guess it didn't go into certain people's calendars.
Right. Can I just say, Ed, you've got really loud bounce back when you speak, so it's a little difficult to hear you at the minute.
I think something might be wrong with my microphone, but I can hear and see everything. Just so you know.
Okay. We might have to end up doing sign language then if it gets desperate. Okay. Right. Declarations of interest. If there's any member that is with us today that has got any interest in any of the agenda items, can they say, please? You're all on mute. Can you hold your hand up if you have? No? Okay. Right, so the next item is item 4, pets policy. I'm not sure who's doing that item.
It's I.
I thought it was Andrew, but I didn't like to sort of push you in there. Thank you.
I thought it was too.
Yeah, good.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, members, this has been brought back from last time with some agreed amendments to the pet policy, which are set out in item 4 of the covering report. I think they are clear enough. There are a couple, Madam Chairman, that we put in that weren't actually requested at the last meeting of HMB, but have arisen for a variety of reasons consequently, and they are covered in the bullet points there under item 4 of the covering report. Happy to take any further comments or questions on these, but this is just really bringing back what was agreed last time.
Thank you. Can I ask that, has everybody read, and if they've read them, are there any comments anybody wants to make on them? Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the amendments, Andrew, particularly the feedback around the number of small pets. I note that we've still got a limit of 2 pets on cats or dogs. I wasn't fully clear if that was 2 cats or 2 dogs, or 2 cats and 2 dogs.
It's I would say that the interpretation of that is that it's 2 cats, 2 pets per household, so it would be 2 cats or 2 dogs, or probably 1 cat and 1 dog.
Okay. Thank you. I think I spoke to a lady who runs a cat rescue today in the local area to ask what she thought about if people were allowed to only keep 2 animals, and she said that there is quite an urgent need for action around people who unfortunately hoard animals, and wasn't clear if that was already something that should be happening under current tenancy agreements, and I think it probably is. She did note the need for that action, but she was also quite concerned at the prospect of what may happen to people's pets that they already have. Are you actually asking people who've got more than 2 cats or dogs in total to rehome those animals purely because they no longer fit with the policy, rather than because they are causing anybody any problems?
I think in answer to that, I think I touched upon this last time, that when we were exercising retrospective enforcement of the pets policy to existing pets, I say we will take a pragmatic approach to this, and I don't expect that we will take unnecessarily punitive action against tenants who come forward and tell us of their pets, and if they're in excess of the 2 rule, if they're cats or dogs, I think we will take a sensible approach. If they are not causing any nuisance to neighbours or to the property, then it is unlikely that we're going to take a heavy-handed approach to it. But it remains a tool at our disposal if we were in a position where we had to do that.
Yeah, thank you. I remain concerned about this policy because as it was sold to us, part of the reason for having it was to avoid inconsistency in application of the tenancy agreement and in the council's approach as a landlord to pets. And so to be reassured that not to worry, it won't be implemented consistently, it will be implemented pragmatically, doesn't reassure me that that problem will go away. I think perhaps it creates extra draconian measures that other, you know, that homeowners don't face. That I'm not sure what the purpose is.
I think I would, you know, add to the fact that we also have to be realistic in the ability for us to enforce this purely on the subject of numbers. We don't know what sort of response we're going to get from existing tenants when this is put into practice. And I think my comments made on trying to take a pragmatic approach to this, a realistic one based on the resources we have and likelihood of what we're probably going to get in terms of response to our tenants. I think we'll have to wait and see. I don't think that as far as the future application of this policy, this is in particularly compromises the overall objective of the policy, and that is to enable officers to be able to exercise a consistent approach to that. I think within any consistent approach, there has to be the understanding that certain circumstances will require a pragmatic interpretation of that. But I think that, you know, our overall aim is to provide a framework for officers that doesn't exist at the moment.
Thank you. I'm afraid I remain concerned. Thank you.
Okay. Pete, do you want to come in on that?
Please, thank you, Chair. I think perhaps if we just make it clearer in the policy that where existing pet owners are concerned, there's no expectation that on implementation of the policy that they get rid of, you know, animals if they've got more than two. I think if we just make that really clear, unless they're causing a breach, I think what we're asking people to do is to come and say, you know, I've got, you know, and I'm sure, you know, responsible pet owners would come forward and just say, hey, listen, I've got, you know, 2 dogs, 2 cats. We'll grant permission. That's it. There's no breach, no problem, I think, as far as we're concerned. So I think we can strengthen that aspect of the policy just to make it really clear, because we don't want people, you know, you know, good pet owners having to take their pets somewhere else, or being under the impression that they have to get rid of their pets, whereas actually really that's not what we're looking for here.
Thank you, Pete. Councillor Radford, would you like to?
Yeah, I can't see a problem. I mean, if the existing tenants have got extra pets and they're not causing any trouble, but I think we need to make sure that we've got these rules in place for new tenants, because I'm aware, and I have a lot of complaints about people who've got 3 or 4 dogs that are barking all the while and causing real problems. And I think we've got to also be mindful of not just the people who own the dogs, but the residents. I mean, if you were renting a private house, in a lot of cases, you're not even allowed a pet at all. So I can't see a problem. I think we need to say, you know, any existing ones, as long as it's not causing issues, okay, but any new tenants, these are the rules, basically. If you don't like it, lump it, basically.
Okay. Noted. Councillor Seaton, would you like to come in?
Thank you. I think Peter has satisfied what I was going to ask. It needs to be made sure that you know, they will be tolerated unless there is a breach. That needs to be made sure. Now, it's always difficult to draw that line in the sand. If anything, the last 14 months has really brought that home to us. Wherever you draw the line, somebody is going to get upset. But at the end of the day, this is to give the officers a little bit more power to their elbow, and as long as it's approached sensibly, I think it's a good way forward.
Thank you. Right, can I just say in conclusion, are we agreed that it's a good policy, we're happy with it to put it forward with the proviso that it is made known that people with pets now, the council will look at it, what would the word be, pragmatically, you know, and unless there is a breach, then they will get the permission from
Probably sympathetically.
Good word. Yeah, it sounds better. It does. So if on conclusion, we put forward with that opinion that we do want it made known that people with existing pets are going to be looked at sympathetically, and providing there is no breach, within their property, for obvious reasons, it will be acceptable. Okay. Am I right in saying that? And we'll go with that one, shall we? May I ask you all to personally okay it? Right, Alan?
Yes, I'm fine. I think Councillor Radford had it best with. They haven't caused a problem in the past. They're highly unlikely to cause one in the future. But as Andrew said, the treating it sympathetically would be sorry, Councillor Seaton, who said sympathetically, would be a good idea.
Thank you,
But yes,
Alan.
I back it, yeah.
Thank you, Alan. Councillor Brennan, do you go with that proviso?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to abstain. I think that if people who've got, for example, 3 cats now aren't causing a problem, then why should people in the future who've got 3 cats be seen to be causing a problem? And where pet ownership is problematic, I think that can already be dealt with under the tenancy agreement, and I welcome some of the proposed changes that we're going to discuss later around the tenancy agreement, in terms of making sure, for example, that pest control is explicitly spelled out to tenants. So I think it can be dealt with inside the policy, the tenancy agreement, without reference to a separate policy. So for that reason, I'm going to abstain.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Councillor Radford?
I'm in agreement, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton?
I support the policy and the amendments.
Thank you. Yasmin?
Yes, I support it.
Okay, thank you. Tracy?
Yes.
You're still with us, Trace?
Yeah, I've just got it. Yeah. Yes, I support it. Sorry. My mute
No, it's
is not
fine.
off.
So we will let the report go forward with our okay, with the proviso, Councillor Brenner said she is abstaining. Now, can we have the reason noted as well, please, Ed?
Yeah, I've made a note of that.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're now moving on to item 5, which is the effect of the changes in the council policy on bulk waste collection on council dwellings. I'm not sure who's doing that report.
I think that's probably me again, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm glad you've turned up today. It's a good thing.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is a report that was originally going to be tabled last time, but I think time constraints meant that it was requested to be deferred, and also to have a look at adding some more evidence by information on the effect that this change has had on the amount of large items that tenants leave and we have to pay to take away from them. As I said in my covering report, Madam Chairman.
Andrew, I'm having ever such a job to hear you again. I don't know whether
I'm so sorry. Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay. So the microphone does tend to come in and out here. So thank you for pointing that out. I'll try to speak up a bit. So the only addition that I put in this covering report that differs from last time is section 2.4, which, having gone and looked at further evidence, I'm concerned that if I were to include that, it would distort the evidence that originally had been analysed, because of the continuing restrictions on people able to go out, leave their home, and dispose of items through things like shielding, general restrictions. And I think we're satisfied that the data that we got together originally compared like with like in terms of the conditions under which people were operating. So I'm happy, Madam Chairman, to confirm the initial findings from this, that the change in council policy on bulk waste collection has had no detrimental effect on council tenants leaving bulky items to be picked up by us. And in fact, as I said in the report, it was actually we were looking at fewer collections, lower cost in the months succeeding the change than the months preceding it.
Thank you. Anybody wish to comment? Councillor Seaton, you've still got your hand up. Is it for this agenda item or the previous?
Previous.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So, no comments, and we're all okay to pass that one. We're happy with that. Yep. Okay. Thank you. And the next is item.
Can I say something?
You certainly can.
Sorry, I can't find where I put my hand up. I can't find it on my thinger. It does say in on page 20, 2.4, that an update report in approximately 6 months' time. Can we make sure that that goes on the work programme, please, Ed?
Yeah, I'll do it.
So so what was that? 2.4. What was it to go on the work programme? Sorry.
An update report in approximately 6 months' time. Can we put that on the work programme, please, so we make sure we get that? Thank you. Sorry, thank you.
Don't be sorry. That's what we're all here for. Thank you. Okay. The next item. Oh, sorry, haven't done it individually. Right. Okay then. Alan, do you agree with the report on the effect of the changes in the council policy on bulk waste collection?
Yeah, I support it at the moment. Say we're waiting for 6 months' time. It would be interesting to see with COVID finally finished whether there is a great change or whether, and also whether there's more fly tipping or not, which would be interesting. Thank you.
Once we get out in the big wide world and we're a little more free, it might make a difference, mightn't it?
Exactly. So
yeah,
I support it. I support it with that proviso of 6 months.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan, you okay with you to forward this report as spoken?
Yes, absolutely. I welcome the coming back to it in 6 months. I do think it's something that we might see a trend in the longer term. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Bradford, are you okay for this report to go forward?
Yeah, happy to support it, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton, are you all right for this report to go forward?
Yeah, well, I note the report. I don't, well, I note the report and welcome the report we'll have in 6 months' time as well.
Thank you. Yasmin, are you okay with the report as spoken with a 6 months update?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you all very much. So we confirm that. Item 6 is tenant policy. Whoever is taking that report, I think it would be Pete.
Thank you, Chair.
Miss me off.
Oh, I'm ever so sorry, Tracy.
Yes, I'm okay with it.
Apologies.
Thank you.
So sorry, Tracy. Okay, Pete, sorry, you're item 6. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to consult the board on the draft revised tenancy policy prior, and also the equality impact assessment prior to its likely progression to Cabinet. So I'll summarise some of the key points. The Council's got a statutory duty to set out, amongst other things, type of tenancies that we'll grant, where we grant tenancies for a fixed term, the length of those terms, and the circumstances in which we will grant tenancies of a particular type. There's a list of further requirements on page 3 and some more expectations from the regulator of social housing in the appendix. I won't go through those. I'll alight on some of the key policy areas and changes. Just moving down to about halfway down page 3, starting with discretionary succession rights. So no significant change is planned since the 2013 policy in this aspect.
Which page you mean page 3? I haven't got page 3. Mine starts at 21.
Separate document,
Yeah.
Christine.
Talk about a separate document now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you turn it over, it will say Agenda 6.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Radford. Thank you, Councillor Seaton. So about halfway down page 3 with discretionary succession rights. No significant change is planned to this aspect of the policy. So prior to 2011, a wide range of family members were able to succeed to a tenancy on the death of a secure tenant. You can see the list there: spouses, partners, civil partners, nieces, nephews, the list goes on. The 2013 policy that we've already got in existence and this policy proposes no change in that respect. So as far as legally practicable, the position for those tenants pre-2011 would be the same as the position for those afterwards. But in addition, by doing this, we also look to meet the needs of vulnerable household members. So if there's an adult disabled child in the property, it does provide a succession right. And of course, it supports the reduction in terms of void loss and costs associated with rehousing family members that don't under-occupy the property. Moving on to 3.2, which is succession under occupation. The law provides a mechanism to support the council to make best use of its stock. So if a successor is not a spouse or civil partner and the property is under-occupied, then where reasonable to do so, the council can seek possession of the dwelling under ground 15A of the Housing Act, where reasonable to do so. That activity forms part of the council's existing approach, and no change to this position is set out. Where we do seek possession on ground 15A, or where there is no right to succession, the council will provide housing options, advice, and assistance to household members. Moving on to flexible tenancies, which is 3.3, bottom of page 4. The new policy introduces the targeted use of fixed-term tenancies to support the prevention of antisocial behaviour and make best use of the council's housing stock. So under this model, prospective tenants with a history of serious ASB will be offered a fixed-term tenancy of 2 years, which would commence following the initial 12-month introductory tenancy period. Before the end of the fixed-term tenancy, the conduct of the tenancy would be reviewed, and if there's been a serious breach of tenancy, tenancy will not be renewed. It'll end. In fact, it'll end in any event. If the conduct has been satisfactory, then a secure tenancy will be offered. Prospective tenants of high demand, general needs, 4-bed plus and wheelchair accessible properties. We have very few of these. There's around 125 4-beds and a handful of 5s. There's 53 wheelchair accessible properties in the stock, will be offered on a 10-year fixed term tenancy in addition to the introductory tenancy period. If the property becomes under-occupied or if the adaptation is no longer needed, then the tenants would be supported to move and the tenancy would not be renewed at the end of the period. Come to an end. In fact, it would come to an end in any event. We just wouldn't issue a new one. The high-level process is set out on page 5. And so this is kind of a summary of the procedure. And you will see that throughout the period of the fixed-term tenancy, advice and support will be offered on tenancy, on conduct of the tenancy and rehousing options as appropriate. Moving on to vulnerable households, we're making a decision around whether or not to issue a new tenancy at the same address or alternative accommodation. Each case will be considered on its merits. So we would consider things around care support and health needs of the tenant, including access to local support networks, family members, whether a move would involve children moving school. Of course, we wouldn't want to move anybody, for example, if they were terminally unwell or something, significant mitigating factors in that respect. Moving on to 3.3.2. Given that one of the aims is to make best use of stock, we do need a mechanism in place to award tenants a sufficient degree of priority on the housing register to facilitate a move. And additionally, a moving package will be offered to support tenants to both move and to engage with the process. Concludes the report, Chair.
Thank you, Pete. Councillor Radford, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Chairman. Right, a couple of things. If a tenant lives in a house like a 4-bed or one that's been adapted, and we know it's a high demand, and they're now under occupancy. What happens if they won't apply to buy?
They would still have the right to buy.
Right, so we could lose some properties that we've adapted or we're short of, like 4 beds.
The current, yeah, that's the current position, and there would be no change to that position. The right to buy is not removed.
Right.
Through use of
The other
fixed
thing with the antisocial behaviour, because I've got problems with this in Shepshed anyway. If you're saying that they're only offered a 2-year tenancy, and then it's after 12 or 18 months anyway, what happens if they're moving from, say, another local authority property, not in Charnwood, where they've been moved out because of their antisocial behaviour? Do they start from day one with the tenancy with hours counting up the years, or do the years count before? Because, you know, hearing from me, there's quite often tenants are moved, they've called antisocial behaviour somewhere else, and then they moved and they're still causing antisocial behaviour when they've moved. So that's my concern, that, you know, do you understand what I'm coming from?
Indeed. Andrew will correct me if I'm incorrect, but they would adopt our terms on transfer.
Right, right. So if they, even if they've been in another council property somewhere else and moved because they've caused problems, they start from day one on hours, so they've got to behave themselves for 2 or 3 years.
Correct.
Basically. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Seaton.
Chair, it's just for the going back to succession, and sorry, I'm hesitating here because I've lost the bit already. There you go. Where the person is under 18, I still can't find it. Oh God, don't know. Oh, there it is. It's 8.5.2. If the successor is under 18 years of age, the successor tenancy will be in accordance with section 4.2 Roman 2 above. I'm not quite sure where that refers to. I'm obviously not reading it right.
I think I see, Chair. It's I think it's 4.42. Apologies, a misreference. I think just looking at it.
Right.
It's because minors lack the capacity to enter into a legally binding agreement. I think it's the paragraph that commences there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Apologies.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan, would you like to come in?
Thank you very much, Chair. I've just got a few queries, really. I mean, I really welcome just how clear this is to read, and I think that it is. I think that it's a big improvement for the tenant in terms of being able to find the bit of their tenancy that's relevant to their situation and understand it. I think that that's excellent. I've got a few concerns. There's the section about if the tenant owns another property or inherits another property. Now, obviously, they may inherit through no fault or choice of their own, and it simply says if the council is of the opinion that they could reasonably live there. And I think that that's very loose. I'd like to know what sort of context opinion would mean. If it was in a different village, could they reasonably move if all of their support networks are in one place, for example? So that's my first query. My second query is about the list of items that you may charge for. How many of these are currently provided for free? And sorry, do you need me to find the...
Apologies, Councillor Brenner. I think you may well be referring to the tenancy agreement rather than the tenancy policy. Perhaps.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The first, I think the first part of the question I think maybe has some relevance, but yeah, I think that's the case.
Okay. So in terms of the policy, sorry, am I looking at the wrong place?
Possibly.
So this is the report about the draft new tenancy agreement.
No, we're on the tenancy policy. I can understand where the confusion may have arisen because it was published as a separate.
Oh, it's a separate document.
Separate document. Sorry. No, it's okay because if you.
Yes, no, I've gone straight from item 5 to item 7 because that is what's in my thing, and you have sent it separately. And yeah, I have had a look at it, but.
That's what I did, Councillor Brennan, as well.
It's reassuring to know it's not just me. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And my last question was about flexible tenancies and the circumstances. Just elaborating on Councillor Radford's query regarding the right to buy. Now, if a tenant were to take on a 10-year tenancy, is there any guarantee at the end of that they would be moved to another secure or fixed term tenancy by the council? I understand the need to free up those adapted houses and larger houses that are in such urgent need, but it concerns me that we may be offering different terms to somebody purely really because they have a disability. If they need an adapted property. So, has the equality implications of that been considered, and is there a guarantee that they will be offered a suitable alternative at the end of that term?
Okay, in terms of a guarantee, I'll just I'll just perhaps give an example. I guess if there were no other kind of issues around breach of tenancy or anything like that, I think that the policy is written on the basis that if there is no longer a need for the property, so if there is no longer a need, if we take a property that's been adapted for people with disabilities, then if the need was still there, then and there was no other circumstances around it, then they weren't under occupying it, kind of didn't fall within that, then that would be okay. We would seek to grant a new tenancy at the same address because there would be no point in trying to find something else for them if all the needs were met there. So that's the way in which it's designed to work. I think generally speaking, if we stay with the example, say that there were remaining household members who did not need, for example, an extension, fully wheelchair accessible property, then we would in the course of our reviews, it was identified that the property was no longer required, or needed on our interpretation of need or required, then we would encourage the household to move to alternative accommodation, initially through the choice-based letting system, and then towards the end of the tenancy, we would seek to direct match. So we look to management allocate identify properties within our stock that the household could be rehoused to. And of course, if we didn't have anything, then I think we'd be stuck. I mean, we'd have to find something for them, and to meet their in order to meet their needs. So I think if the property's not needed in the policy context, then there wouldn't be a renewal. But if it is still needed, there would be. And yes, in relation to the equalities aspect of things, it has been considered. The broad conclusion of the equality impact assessment is that due to the limited amount of properties, it's a proportionate approach to actually, because what would happen is people that need the properties, so people that do have disabilities, would then not have to wait as long as they do at the moment in order to move into the property. I recognise that there's kind of an argument around the supply, and demand of those properties. So there is an argument to say, well, actually, we should have more adapted properties or something like that. But looking at the existing, in terms of our existing stock levels, the justification is that we will effectively shorten waiting times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? No. So we're all saying yes. We'll pass this report forward. There's no provisos, and we're happy for it to go as it is. We're okay, are we, on that? Yes. One thing I would like to comment on, when this particular report, actually this one and the tenant agreement went to that group, but we were all actually impressed with the way the report has been done clearly, and it was very easy to understand. And I think the things that mattered, succession, which is quite complicated when you start talking about it, and various, was explained extremely well. So I think it was a very big advantage for the way this has been done, and I'd like to say thank you. So on that happy note, we're okay. I've got to ask individually, of course, off we go again. Alan, are you okay with the reports on the tenant policy?
Yeah, I'm fine with the report, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan, are you okay with the reports going forward?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Hang on a sec. Councillor Radford, are you okay on that? Okay, we'll come back. Councillor Seaton, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with the report, thank you.
Yasmin, are you okay with the report as it is?
I am, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Radford, are you okay with this report as it goes forward? Okay, Tracy, are you okay with this report as it goes forward?
Yes, fine, thank you, Chair.
We've got one no answer. As a majority, are we okay to pass this forward, Ed?
I'm not sure because this is an advisory board. I'm not sure what the protocol is in terms of voting as such. It's not a decision-making board. Let's try and get a response from.
Yeah, if we leave it for now.
I'm just ringing Christine now.
Okay, thank you.
Right, she said she'd already answered you, but she's going to do it again.
I'm sorry, but I thought I'd answered. You obviously didn't hear me.
I'm sorry, I didn't, Councillor Radford. Are you okay going forward with the tenant policy as it is?
Sorry about that.
Okay, it's okay, let you off. Thank you very much. Yes, so we're fine with it going forward as it is. Thank you. So we now have item 7, the tenancy agreement. Thank you, Pete.
I think this is one for me, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Sorry.
That's absolutely fine. Thank you very much. That's obviously there are some quite large documents appended to this report, which unless I'm implored to do so, I will not go through. Instead, I'll just take members very briefly through the covering report of this. Effectively, our tenancy agreement is the most important document that exists, really. It defines the relationship between landlord and tenant. It's a contractual document, and therefore, in many respects, it's quite a legalistic document. The existing tenancy agreement has been in place now for a large number of years, and it is generally considered good practice to revise your tenancy agreement regularly. Other factors also cause a need to revise your tenancy agreement, notably any changes in legislation or regulation, or even accepted good practice. So the tenancy agreement that is appended to this report is the product of some quite considerable, lengthy work to try to rewrite the existing tenancy agreement, and in doing so, to try to probably rectify some problems that have emerged during the course of the last few years when the existing tenancy agreement has been in place, but also to make an attempt to include certain clauses that weren't or not included in the existing tenancy agreement, and to either expand upon or clarify existing clauses in the tenancy agreement in the new agreement. What I've attempted to do here is to set out the principal changes proposed in the tenancy agreement in section 4 of the covering report, and they probably broadly fall into 2 categories. Firstly, it's the format of the tenancy agreement. The current tenancy agreement is very much subject based, and anecdotally people find it quite difficult sometimes to navigate their way around the tenancy agreement, finding what they need to read. The draft new agreement attempts to rectify that by, I think, injecting a deal of rigor into the way it is set out, and 4.1 actually explains what I've done in this. Effectively, the tenancy agreement is a set of rights and responsibilities, and the new agreement attempts to set those out in a probably more coherent form than they are set out in the existing agreement. And there I go on in section 3 to set out the actual changes that are proposed in the tenancy agreement. And these basically, as I said before, fall into 2 categories. They're things that we don't have at the moment that we want to put in, and things that exist at the moment that we want to either clarify or expand upon and improve upon. So those are set down in section 3. Again, Madam Chairman, I don't propose to go through those, but happy to answer any questions as a result from them. Finally, I think it's fair to say that this new agreement is considerably longer than the existing agreement. One could say that it is too wordy and too legalistic. However, as I said previously, it is a contract, and by definition has to be legalistic to a certain extent. But I do accept that it is quite a document to wade through, and so because of that, we've written alongside this a simple guide to the tenancy agreement that really attempts to draw out the most important elements of the tenancy agreement for the tenant to concentrate on, and will also prove I think a useful tool for people signing up new tenants to use, because obviously time is limited, and it's important that the important elements of the tenancy agreement are drawn out. And we also intend later on to develop a format of the tenancy agreement that can be used for people with learning difficulties, because I think this is quite important that we make this accessible to people who might find it difficult in its current format, and that's something that we intend to do in the future. And the final thing I'd like to say, Madam Chairman, is what we do with existing tenants. I've set that out in section 7, the very rigorous consultation procedure that we have to go through, that's set down in the 1985 Housing Act, that will enable us to apply this retrospectively to existing tenants. That's all I propose to say, Madam Chairman. Happy to take questions and comments.
Anybody wish to speak? Tracy? Mute.
Sorry, I forget that I'm on mute. It's on my page 58, and it says it's got the rundown of what people have got to pay, and I just wonder why water was still on there. Oh, have we lost it?
Page 58.
Yeah.
It's
that page, Andrew.
Oh right. So okay.
So it's like the rundown of what the tenants got to pay.
Yeah. This really attempts to include anything possible that tenants could pay within their gross rent, and we do still have some properties where I understand water is part of the charge. If it doesn't apply, it just doesn't apply.
No. I just wondered that because of the because most people pay water separate, don't they? So that's what his question was. Let me read through this. Okay. It's 3.7.4. We will get your certificate showing what is included in your service charges. Does this include with the cleaning contract as well?
The purpose of 3.74.4 is to give us the ability, should we wish to exercise it in the future, to apply what is called variable service charges to tenants, should we decide to, because at the moment we levy a fixed service charge based on the which is the actual cost, and in terms of the cleaning, that is the actual cost that people pay. If I just give a sort of a corollary of that, with our leaseholders, the service charge regime is that we bill leaseholders for services that we expect to incur on their behalf during the current the forthcoming year, and at the end of that period we then tell them what we actually did spend on their behalf, and then there's an accounting adjustment exercise that takes place. If they paid too much, then we return that in the way of a refund or a credit, or carry it over to the next year. If they paid insufficient, then we bill them on top of that. This really we're not practicing that at the moment. We have no immediate plans to practice it, but we want to give ourselves the ability to, should we wish to do in the future, and that way is a mechanism by which tenants can be satisfied, should service charging develop, that they only ever pay for the actual cost of the services that we provide.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There's two more questions. Sorry, Chair. The schedule of service, section 8.
Yeah.
It says what the council is responsible for is maintaining the bin storage. Does this include cleaning?
So this is section 8.
Yeah, section 8, 8.2.
Yeah.
So it says what you're responsible for. Yeah. Is this the maintenance of the bin storage areas? Does that include cleaning of it, within our service charge, or is it not?
Yes, it is, and that's currently what we're charging for if tenants have that service as far as internal bin stores are concerned. Again, the purpose of section 8 is to set out a comprehensive schedule of services that we would be able to legitimately charge for, were we to decide at a later date, if we're not doing it at the moment, to charge. Legally, if we don't do that, and say for instance we wish to charge a service charge for, say for instance, door entry system maintenance in the future. We don't at the moment. I would stress that we have no plans to either.
Okay.
If that was not listed in the tenancy agreement in the schedule of services, we could not legally charge.
All right. Okay.
For that.
That makes sense.
This is effectively giving us the ability to do something legally in the future, where in its absence we would not be able to do.
Okay.
That's why it's so long.
Yeah, you have put may provide in it, but maybe the may should be a bit bigger, bolder, so that it's not that you do supply, you do provide, it's that you may. Yeah, maybe that may might be a bit bigger.
Emphasize that in bold or capital.
Yeah,
thank you.
I think it might be better.
I agree.
Yeah, and the other one is 8.7. I don't quite know what this is. So it's the disfiction or sinking fund. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that.
again, this is something that we want to be able to do if we wish. If for instance one is living in sheltered accommodation, we provide say for example furniture or laundry equipment. At the moment, if and when that equipment comes to the end of its useful life, we have to replace it, and that charge then has to be levied on the tenants in future years to cover it. The purpose of depreciating this or providing what's called a sinking fund is effectively putting money away for the future through present charging. So when that equipment comes to the end of its useful life, the money is already there to pay for its replacement, and we don't have to levy an additional charge on tenants to cover that, as we do at the moment for anyone living in sheltered accommodation. When things like furniture is replaced, tenants get charged for that, and the recovery period is debatably whether it's fair to recover that over a short period of time or a long period of time. This is a way of effectively saving money for future use.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not sure whether the tenants will agree, but it makes sense.
They probably would if they don't end up getting charged quite a large supplement on their service charge, as has happened in the past when equipment has had to be replaced.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. Thank you for that, Andrew. Thank you. That's me done, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan, would you like to come in?
Yes, thank you. I could just repeat my comments that I mistakenly made to Peter. I think it's a very clear document, and I do find it in terms of how it's presented a big improvement on the previous one. So thank you. Part of my first question was covered in your question to your answer to Tracy just then. Am I to understand from your answer that in terms of potential charges that tenants may face, you don't envisage that the changes to the tenancy agreement will result in the tenants paying more overall? No. If you add up the service charge as opposed to the charges that are listed?
No, there is no, let's say, hidden intention through this to start levying service charges for things that we don't currently levy service charges for. However, the purpose of doing this is on the basis that you don't revise your tenancy agreement every year. Believe me, you don't want to do that. I have to try to project the future of when circumstances might change, and we don't know what's going to happen. And in order to protect the council, we decided that we needed this in just to provide for something should circumstances change and we want to do something that at the moment we're not legally able to do. And without those items listed in the schedule of services, if in the future we proposed to start levying a charge that we don't levy at the moment, we have to be legally able to do that. At the moment, we're not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm reassured to hear there's no hidden intention. I'm sure that the board might have something to say if charges do go up considerably in the coming years. But thank you. My next question was about tenants who inherit or who own another property. I mean, owning, one would have to go and buy a property, and I can see that it would be more reasonable to expect a tenant to then, having bought a property, go and live in it. But in terms of inheritance, it's not something we choose. And what is the definition of well, it's in our opinion, whose opinion, and how are they making that opinion?
I did note when you raised that, I'm not ducking out of answering this question, but when you raised that last time, Peter was ready to come and give you an answer. So without wanting to steal his thunder, perhaps if Peter does want to answer that, because I think it strays into the territory of the strategic housing team and housing needs and our allocations policy.
I think in terms of reasonableness, I guess if we put in our conditions of tenancy that it's a breach of tenancy not to, and if we were going to enforce the conditions of tenancy, we would have to be reasonable. And you may recall that I think on the last report, I kind of set out some reasons why it might not be reasonable to expect somebody to move to an alternative property. So maybe if it's on the other side of the country, or compromise their employment or something along those lines. Because ultimately, if we were going to enforce on this, I think it would likely be on a discretion, for breach of tenancy in a discretionary ground. And then, if we were going to take something to court, the judge would decide whether or not to order possession, and they would have to make a decision as to whether or not it was reasonable in all of the circumstances to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. I've got a last question. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm nearly done. Just to say how ample I think that the section regarding pets and the section regarding the responsibility to keep dogs under control and to prevent and deal with pests and keep the home clean and in a reasonable condition, how ample that all is to deal with problematic pet ownership on its own without a separate policy that can be changed without consultation.
Okay, thank you. Right, who else would, Councillor Radford, do you wish to speak?
I think Councillor Seaton was before me.
Right, can I just impress, we are struggling a little for time because we must get through for the exempt, the last item on the agenda. So forgive me for saying,
Right, okay.
You know, obviously everybody has questions and they're very valid on this particular item. So if we can sort of press on and see how well we do with it, thank you.
So where does that leave us? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, all we can do is...
no, I mean, are you asking me now or Councillor Radford?
No, I'm just generally saying.
Yeah.
People, yeah, there are other hands. So I'm just sort of saying generally, we are getting a little stuck for time. And although it's a very important item, and obviously you need all your answers, yeah. So if we can sort of see how we go for time, and forgive me if I say, you know, a little while, if we're still sort of questioning this, which we need to, we may have to, I may have to ask that you contact Andrew directly, but let's see for now. Okay, do you want to move on, Councillor Seaton?
Thank you, Chair. It's just it's not a question at all. Section 8, you may need to put the word future in there, that we may charge in the future. That may make a difference. But I want to just draw your attention to page 23, and obviously you're all out to confuse me. It's household pets. You've put that it's in section 6, number 17, but it's not. It's section 6:16.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
And Peter will know why I was particularly looking on that as referring to wasps' nests. So, okay, that's it, Chair.
That's okay. Are we all? Councillor Radford, have you spoken?
Mine's just a quick one. Yeah, I was going to say it's 6:16. You know, with pests, what happens if people in the garden aren't looking after the garden and they're allowing that plant to grow? That's a dangerous plant, because I can't remember what it's called, but I've got a couple of tenants that don't look after the garden, and that plant is growing everywhere. And I'm quite surprised about the owning another property. Wasn't that in the, have we never had that in the previous tenancy? Oh, well, I'm all right. Okay. It just seems, not right that if you own a property that you can live in and it's near where you are, but then you're given a council tenancy and you still own the property and you're renting it out, which I've got a couple of people in Shepshed that we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just very briefly say, when we did the CHRF meeting, the one thing that did come up was pest control. And from that, we did get from Andrew that contractually, Charnwood are not responsible for payment of pest control. It is the tenant's responsibility. I've looked into this, and I have been told that if you go to the UC financial officer, they will do what's called an assisted living assessment, which, because obviously when you're on benefits, if you've got something to pay like that, which is not optional, it doesn't cover the price of that, which is quite expensive. So it is assessed in that way. And also I have myself found out there are a couple of charities that will help pay for that if you are struggling on a low budget. So I'm just looking into who they are, because I think it's a vital thing. It's not optional, it can't wait, and particularly, if there's adults, it's a struggle, but if there's any other person, children or various things, it has to be done as soon as possible. But if you haven't got the money, it's a massive worry. So there was just that I wanted to bring up. Having said that, can we agree, which I will do obviously individually, that we'd like this report to go forward as given? Hang on a second, I've lost my list. I've got how much on the desk. Here we go. Okay, so let's have a look. Yeah, Alan, are you in agreement with the tenants agreement?
Yes, Chair, I am.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan, are you okay for it to go forward? No. Are you okay for the tenants agreement to go forward, Councillor Brennan?
My apologies, my thing was in the wrong place. Yes, I'm happy for it to go forward, as long as it's
Okay. Councillor Seaton, are you okay for this report to go forward as it stands?
I'm happy for it to go forward.
Thank you. Councillor Radford, are you okay for it to go forward as it stands?
I am happy for it to go forward, Chairman.
Thank you. Tracy, are you okay for this report to go forward as it stands?
Providing the few changes that we've mentioned, Andrews gets changed, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Yasmin, are you happy for the report to go forward as it stands?
I am, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so, moving on to question 8, which is questions from members of the board. Can I just say, if you have any questions or anything you need putting on the agenda, would like on the agenda, can you let Ed or myself have it, or Tracy, 10 days before the meeting so that it can be put on? Okay. I think the next thing is the work programme, please. Is there anything anybody would like to have put on the work programme? No, I've got
this one for me.
Right.
Can we review the cleaning contract? Is that within our remit? Because it's been a while since they've been going. It's just been nice to sort of review it and see the position they're in and stuff.
Yeah, it must be at least 6 months. I know it's Andrew's jurisdiction, isn't it? Pete?
Yeah, Chair, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. I'll stick that on. Anything else, Trace?
No, the others are the ones you spoke to me about, so I'll let you do them.
Okay, and they are the repair guide and the code of conduct. It's in connection with the contract that the council have, and I'd like to bring it in coincidentally, with everything. May I have it on the work programme, please?
The repair guide, sorry.
The repair guide and code of conduct. Code of conduct, please.
Okay, I've made notes of that.
Trish,
yes,
it was the service provided code of conduct she was asking about.
Thank you. I can't find my thing. I've got how many pages on my desk covering out of space. I couldn't think what it was. I was going to have to tell him afterwards. Great. Okay then. So I think that is it. I think that's it. Yeah. Turn the pages. Right, so now we have the exempt item, right, which I now read. Propose to exclude members of the public from the meeting during the consideration of the following item on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 3 and 5 of Part 1, Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972. And it is considered that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing information. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Thank you, Yasmin. Cheers. Right. So I'm going yeah, can I ask, is the meeting now still being live streamed?